today, lesson 9, we've already talked some about percents, and today we're going to focus on percent word problems. Some of them are easy enough to do without a ratio box, but I really am going to encourage you to do these with a ratio box. Some of the ones we're going to start on today, you may start seeing that can get kind of confusing, and we can get mixed up on how to set it up if we don't use the ratio box. First one is pretty straightforward, but I am going to use the box just to illustrate. 60% of those present were neophytes, which just means newbies, beginners. Doesn't really matter if you know some of the Saxon words or not. They like to stretch your vocabulary. You can look them up for fun, but you can also figure out what's going on just from the context of the problem. Then we had some that were not neophytes, and how many attended the performance. So in this one, we have neophytes, and we have not neophytes, and that includes everybody, right? So the total has to be 100%. They tell us 60% were neophytes, so everybody shout out, how many were not? 40. 200 were not, so we put a 200 on the not row for the actual value, and we want to know how many people attended. That's all together. That's the total. So we pick our letter to put there, and we see that we have 2 complete rows, and we've done enough of these. We know that means we set up a fraction, and then we are going to write down our cross product. 40x equals 100 times 200. I'm not going to punch that in the calculator yet. I want just x. So then I need to divide by 40. Yes, I could have reduced the 40 over 100 to 2 over 5 to begin with if I wanted to. That would have been fine. I could have looked at it and said, oh, 40 times 5 is 200. If I multiply the numerator, I multiply the denominator, so I get 500. You may solve that way. If you do it this way, punch that in your calculator. All of this at once. I don't want you to write down what's 100 times 200 and then write that down over 40. You do control divided by, so you get box over box. So control divided by, box over box. Numerator, 100 times 200. Go to the denominator, 40, and enter, and we get the 500 that we knew from mental math when we had done it the other way. But I also wanted to model that box over box with control divided by. Don't make the problems take longer than they have to by writing out every little value. This times this, this times this divided by that. Don't take time to copy all those numbers down. So this would be 500, and then we label it for our total people. So thumbs up, thumbs down, are we good with that? Okay, the new kind, where it starts getting harder, they're going to have a lot of problems that say the amount increased by a certain percent, or it decreased by a certain percent, or was a certain percent more than what we started with, or a certain percent less than what we started with. We are always going to have the start or the original amount be 100%. Sometimes that is last year. Then we are going to have an increase or a decrease, or it was greater than, or it was less than. So we are going to add or subtract some percent. And then we will get our finishing amount, our end amount, our new amount, sometimes our this year amount. And it's either the 100 plus something or the 100 minus something, depending on whether we were increasing or decreasing. So let's do one example, just increasing for today. But you'll start seeing some soon that are decreasing. So production increased. So we had a start, and then if it increases, are we adding or subtracting? We're going to add, and then we're going to get our new amount. So it increased. So we always start with 100%, and then we increase by 145. So what do you get when you add those together? So 245. 200% is double what we had before. This is more than double what we had before. So one year we had something, the next year we more than doubled it. And so that was, the new was this year, if we start reading the rest of the problem, and the start was last year. So the number of widgets this year, so that's going to be 171,500. We want to know how many last year. So we need to put our X here. We don't need the middle row now. Since I've got that middle row kind of in the way though, I'm going to rewrite the 100 over 245, the top over the bottom, equals the top X over the bottom, 171,500. You're going to do this one on your calculators the way I just modeled. We're going to write down the cross product. 245x is 100 times 171,500. We're not going to just add 2 extra zeros onto that, even though we could. Then we want to divide both sides by the 245. So this is now all I want you to enter in your calculators, one step. Control divided by, numerator 100 times 171,500. Go to the denominator, 245, and hit enter. And Ethan, what did you get?
I got 70,000.
Anybody else 70,000? Thumbs up if you also got that. Thumbs down if you got something different. See, lots of thumbs up, which matches what I wrote down here. So 70,000, and that was widgets last year. Questions there? All right, you guys are going to try it then with whiteboards. And so here is your first one.